Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Nice to see all of you this morning. My name is Ralph Honda, and I am the chairperson for today's service. We will be, in addition to our meeting today, I'd like to welcome those who are live streaming the service on our temple's YouTube channel. So welcome to today's family service and monthly Shotsuki Hoyo. Our monthly Shotsuki Hoyo is to honor those loved ones who passed away during the month of June. And so that will be our, in honor of them for this month. Thank you to Reverend Honda for ringing the Kansho or the calling bell, signaling the beginning of today's service. And I'd like to thank Reverend Laverne Imodi and Reverend Noriko Kawai for leading us for today's gathering. Okay, we will begin this morning's service with the chanting of the sutra Jusei Ge, and that can be found on page 35 of the service book. Seppo shi
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you. I forgot to mention to thank all of you for following our temple's protocols for today of wearing your masks in the service. We will not be having any incense burning, but Gassho. At this time, I'd like to have Reverend Laverne read the Shotsuki names for the month of June.
And those of you that have family members, please feel free to come up. We are not burning incense, so we will not be doing oshoko, but you can come up and do gassho. I'd like to start by offering our very sincere condolences to the family and to the friends of Moto Tsuneyoshi, who died May 8th, 2022. I will read the name of the deceased, the person who died during the month of June, and then the family member. Mika Sato, Takashima family. Masami Ito, Ito family. Nobuko Ito, Ito family. Akito Matsui, Imori and Curtis families. Mina Taro Hosaka, Hosaka family. Hajime Yonekura, Yonekura family. Toichi Kodama, Kodama family. Isano Sugioka, Sugioka family. Goichiro Haseyama, Noboru Haseyama. Hideo Iwata, Iwata family. Matsue Morita, Morita family. Shigeyuki Furuya, Furuya family. Shizu Moriyama, Moriyama family. Yukino Sameshima, Takeshi Sameshima. Shojiro Sameshima, Takeshi Sameshima. Jukichi Yamanishi, Miyoko Yamanishi. Rokuichi Hanano, Gerald Hanano. Yozo Kawato, Nancy Nakatani. Toshiko Yamada, Yamada family. Shigeo Fujimoto, Fujimoto family. Tsune Tsubota, Isami Tsubota. Kikuyo Kawasaki, Ohara family. Toichi Okamura, Mitsuo Tsurudome. Gitaro Hataue, Inoue family. Midori Morimoto, Morimoto family. Yuka Yamanokuchi, Otsuji family. Tamotsu Ojiri, Doug Ojiri. Yuru Shiraishi, Shiraishi family. Kyoji Ootomo, Chiyoko Watanabe. Kuni Shimada, Sharon Shimada. Uchiji Ouchi, Yanagihara family. Tamotsu Matsumoto, Troy Matsumoto. Seiichi Shimizu, Gordon Shimizu. Frank Yamada, Yamada family. Richard Shizuo Watanabe, Diane Yamada. Emi Fujimoto, Fujimoto family. Kiyoshi Shinsato, Michiko Shinsato. Fumiko Shironaka, Howard Shironaka. Sandra Sachiko Takashima, Ronald Takashima. Naoya Yagura, Yagura family. George Yano, Irene Bogner. Eijiro Yamashita, Mildred Kawasaki. J. Richard Teague, Teague family. Chieko Kida, Kida family. Ronnie Ishisaki, Loretta Ishisaki. Tom Masakatsu Yonekura, Yonekura family. Toshiko Mori, Takeko Davis. Makiko Ishizu, Setsuko Toyama. Sadae Kohara, Sayo Fujiwara. Mizue couple, Himaka family. Miyoshi Tanaka, Yoko Ozawa. Minoru Nakamura, Nakamura family. Masako Lawrence, Alexander Lawrence. Tokio Hayashi, Kikue Hayashi. Shigeharu Nakamura, Wendy Nakamura. Ronald Iguchi family. George Shuichi Tsubakihara, Ken Tsubakihara. Haru Girard, Roxanne Girard. Tomio Nakano family. George Hiroshi Masumoto, Chiyoko Masumoto. Bob Nobuo Ito, Suzanne Ito. James Kida, Katsumi Kida.
Thank you, Reverend Laverne, for reading the names, Shotsuki names of loved ones who passed away during the month of June. So many names of family members who are associated with our temple, many of whom were very active members of the temple at one time and helped form the temple of how we are able to appreciate today. So thank you. At this time, will everyone please rise for the recitation of the three treasures? And that can be found on page 91 of the service book, and that will be led by Avis Honda.
Okay, put your hands together, please. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken ourselves in our supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become unit in true accord in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal brotherhood, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Dabatsu, Namo Dabatsu, Namo Dabatsu.
Thank you, Avis. You may be seated. At this time, Reverend Laverne has a message she'd like to share with for the Dharma School students. I think there are some students here today.
Yeah,
so,
a few.
Yeah,
You
thank you.
Invite them to come up?
Would you like to come up to sit in the first row?
If you want to see the pictures, you have to come up.
Thank you.
So I'm going to read a story. First of all, just want to apologize for my tardiness. This has been one of those rough weeks for here's Ida catching it. Oh, thank you. Okay. And this is them splashing at each other. Yep, and this is when they're stopping in the evening. Do our polar bears at our zoo play? Have you guys watched them play around in the water? It's kind of fun, isn't it? Yeah. I love going to the polar bears, except I like to catch the tram because it's a long walk up. Then the two friends flopped onto their favorite rock while the city pulsed around them. I wish we could see it, Gus sighed. You don't have to see it to feel it, said Ida. Listen. Listen. They heard buses groan, trucks rumble, police whistle, taxis honk, pigeons coo, people saying, hey, wait, yo, hello, and children laughing. That's the city's heartbeat, said Ida. It's right here with us, always. So here's the pictures of the city. And so they couldn't really see all the activity in the city, but they could hear the sounds of the city, right? When the sky grew dark, Gus and Ida waved goodnight and crawled off to their caves. With the subways humming underground, they added their snores to the sounds of their city. Each day was always the same. Do you snore when you go to sleep? You don't? Does your dad snore? Sometimes. Does your mom snore? I snore. Until one morning, when keys clicked and shoes clacked, Gus crawled out. So here it's nighttime, right? And here's Gus crawling out of the city, out of his cave. But Ida wasn't there. Gus lumbered to Ida's cave. He sat in their sunniest spot and waited. The coffee carts ground their beans and the squirrels squabbled over crumbs. Visitors shuffled in, keepers bustled about. Ida had never slept so late. Snow monkeys and taxicabs screeched. Ice cream trucks jingled. Still, Ida didn't come. And so here's Gus, right? He's coming out of his cave, and he's waiting for Ida in the sunshine. He's waiting and waiting and waiting, but Ida hasn't come out. You think something was wrong? Yeah? Keeper Sonia came instead. Sonia told Gus that Ida was very sick. Usually there's a way to make a sick bear better, but this time was different. Ida wouldn't hurt, but she would get tired and too weak to swim and play. Then one day, when her body stopped working, Ida would die. Sonia's voice was soft. But the words felt rough to Gus. His insides churned. His chin shook. The sky rumbled. Gus rushed to his friend. Don't go, he growled. Don't go. Don't go. Don't. Ida growled right back. Together they stomped and snarled. Their growls turned into howls so loud they filled up the zoo, rising higher than the skyscrapers, scaring pigeons, surging toward stars. So what do you think the growling meant? Were they angry at each other, do you think? Maybe that's the way polar bears showed that they're kind of sad and they're upset with that news, that Ida was very, very sick. And then they stopped. Two friends folded into one shadow and slumped quietly on the rocks. Two bare noses sniffled. Two bare breaths panted. Two bare breaths echoed each other's beat. So they were feeling pretty sad. A plane roared overhead. Gus and Ida wondered where it was going. They wondered where Ida was going, too. They wondered and guessed and imagined as they whispered nose to nose. Wherever I go, said Ida, I bet I'll always smell your fishy breath. That made Gus smile. He wasn't sure if he should, but Ida was giggling too. They let their laughs bounce back and forth between them. So here they are, sitting together, just being together, right? And here they are, sniffling but giggling too. From then on, Ida spent most of her days in her cave. She slept a lot, but she didn't hurt. The keepers took good care of her, and Gus helped. He gathered her favorite toys and fishy treats. He brought her visitors' notes, too. So I think the visitors knew that Ida was sick, and so they wrote notes to her, and Gus would take them over to her. There were growling days and laughing days and days that mixed them up. So they spent a lot of their days together, being with each other, doing the things that they enjoyed. Sometimes Ida needed a moment alone, and sometimes Gus did too. But at the end of each day, Gus always told Ida, "I'll miss you." And Ida always told Gus, "I'll miss you too." They would cuddle until the sky grew dark and the lamps of the city clicked on. They would wave goodnight 1,000 times, and then wave a few more times. Then one sunny day, while Gus smoothed her fur, Ida curled into quiet. Her eyes fluttered shut, and they didn't open anymore. Gus pressed one last pat into Ida's paw. The paper showed the news. The city cried. For days, the zoo was filled with goodbyes. Now, when the keys click and shoes clack, Gus crawls out of his cave, knowing Ida won't be there. He dives and swims alone, and he eats his lunch with his keeper, Sonia. They roll Ida's favorite yellow ball. Some days, Gus forgets. He looks for Ida on the rock in her cave behind the waterfall. When he remembers she isn't there, he rests in the shadow. But even in the shadows, the sounds of the city reach him. He hears buses groan, trucks rumble, police whistle, taxis honk, pigeons coo, people saying, "Hey, wait, yo, hello," and children laughing. Gus smiles. He steps into the spot where Ida liked to soak in the sun. He listens to their city pulsing around him. He remembers that Ida said, "You don't have to see it to feel it." The sidewalks tap and the streets hum. Gus's heart beats. And Ida is right there with him, always, because she's with him in his heart. So, the reason that I shared this story is not to make you sad, although you may feel a little sad. When I read the story, I felt a little sad. But it's to remind us the importance of a service like today. It's to remind us of why we do Shotsuki. You know, some of you may think, well, I don't know these people, and our minister is reading the names of these people. I don't know. You know, I'd rather be back in bed. But I want to stress to you the importance of remembering and not forgetting. It's like we had, I think, Mr. Ralph, I think you wrote an article. Is that article in the paper now?
Not yet.
So it's the reason that we go to Memorial Day services and do Memorial Day services. It's to remember that the reason that we're here today is because of all of those people and what they did for us, even though we didn't know them. A lot of people built this temple. We didn't know them. But if we think about it, let's say thank you, right? Just like Kenji Sensei used to say, we go from please to thank you. And we keep that thank you in our hearts on days like this, okay? So please join me in Gassho, and we will say Nembutsu Namo Amida with gratitudes in our heart. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you guys for coming up.
Thank you very much, Reverend Laverne, for your very heartfelt message in the story for the Dharma School. I think this is a reminder, even for Dharma School children, that, not only you have, loved ones who have passed away, but, you also have pets too. And pets have a life just like you. And at some point, you may lose a pet, whether it's a dog or a cat, or even if it's a bunny rabbit or a goldfish. They all have lives, and your pets always have meant something to you and your family in your life. So thank you. Next, we will have the reading of our pledge. And the Our Pledge is written by the Gomonshu of our Jodo Shinshu tradition, Reverend Otani Kojun. And there's a handout in the back of the service book that you can use to read. And to lead the reading of our pledge will be Andrea and Paulina Covarrubias. If you don't have a handout, raise your hand, and then Reverend will pass one out to you.
Our pledge. Breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha.
I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who tirelessly works to liberate all.
Kansho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you, Andrea and Paulina, for leading us in the recitation of our pledge. At this time, I have a few announcements to make. Next Friday, on June 17th, will be our temple's virtual community fundraiser with Panda Express restaurant. Yay? You like Panda Express, Jaden? Well, okay. Well, make sure that your mom and dad get you something. So on that day, all day Friday, from when the stores open until evening, we'll be having this fundraiser, and it's at any location in San Diego County. The one catch is that you need to order online, and there's a link on the temple's website that you can click on for the event, and you must order using the special order code, which is 908377, that is specific to the Buddhist Temple of San Diego. You can 28% of the sales of the net sales will be donated to the temple. So you share this with your family, friends, your neighbors. You can share it with family members anywhere across the country to help support the temple with this fundraiser that will be on June 17th. There are flyers in the back of the Honda also if you'd like to pick one up. Next Sunday, the 19th, the temple will be having its annual picnic at Roar Park in Chula Vista, starting at 10 a.m. I know for Dharma School students, the picnic is a fun event, but it's everyone is invited. Sangha is invited to the service and picnic. The service begins at 10 o'clock. The junior YBA will provide games for the Dharma School students, and there'll be a barbecue lunch for everyone. If you would like to bring a side dish for the luncheon, you're welcome to do so. Roar Park is located in Chula Vista. Sorry we don't have maps available, but it's on the right between Chula Vista and Bonita. Oh, thank you for all those who participated in the bazaar last weekend. It was a big success, and we thank those of you, all of you, who helped out and volunteered your time for the few days to make it a successful event. And hope everybody got some food. You know, we ended up selling out of everything, so that was very nice. Let's see what else. Oh, yes. Following the service today, Reverend Noriko will give a Dharma message in Japanese. So those of you who'd like to stay for the Japanese message are welcome to do so. And then our next in-person service, hybrid service, will be on Sunday, July 17th. And that will be a family service along with the observance of the July and August Shotsuki. Our Obon and Hatsubon service will be held on Sunday, July 31st from 2 o'clock p.m. And Reverend Gregory Gibbs, our supervising minister from the Pasadena Buddhist Temple, will officiate that service. And following the service, we will have our Bon Odori in the parking lot. So everyone, please join us for the Obon Hatsubon service and the Odori following. And then to get ready for Bon Odori, practices will begin on July 6th, and practice will be held on Wednesdays leading up to Bon Odori to the 31st on Wednesdays at 7, and on Sundays, with the exception of July 10th, starting at 11 a.m. And all other information that is shared will be in our July Busei script, which will come out at the end of this month. Okay, I guess at this time I'd like to excuse the Dharma School students. There's a craft activity that will be held downstairs, led by Miss Jamie and Mr. Greg and Miss Nancy. So if you could come up and Gassho before going downstairs. Thank you very much. Well, as the Dharma School offers Gassho offering and leaves. I'd just like to mention that following today's service, there will be hospitality. I'm sorry, but I'm not sure where it will be. It will either be downstairs in the dining room or possibly out on the terrace. Okay, at this time, we will continue with the service with the recitation of the Vandana and Tisarana led by Reverend Laverne, and that can be found on page 96 of the service book.
Please join me from the beginning. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo kie butsu, Namo kie ho, Namo kie so. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you. At this time, Reverend Laverne will share her Dharma message to the adults.
Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. I want to start off today by thanking you all for coming. I know it's COVID. Somebody told me COVID wants to survive, but COVID is changing, and we have a variant right now that seems to be pretty contagious. In this past week, I have actually people that I've worked with, I've discovered have come down with COVID. There were 3 of them. We don't think it was at the event that I was at. I was in College Park, Maryland this past weekend. Lots and lots of kids. There were about 800 people there. Most were masked, and we all had to do daily COVID tests. But I think anytime that we get together, I think this is going to be here with us for a while, like the flu has been. So please, so thank you, first of all, for wearing your masks. I'm taking mine down so I can speak a little bit more clearly. But thank you for wearing your masks and taking precautions. And thank you for coming today. And those of you that are live streaming in on Zoom, thank you. I know that you are taking your own precautions by staying at home. Some of you may have been a little uncomfortable as I was reading the book. It's a children's book, It's a children's book about death. But I feel that it's really important to not be silent on the topic. I think this is something that we as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, we do funerals, we do memorial services. Part of our tradition is that memorial services are pretty important, and our monthly Shotsuki service is very important. It's the time when we can read the names of those folks who, because of their efforts, we are here. And as I told the children, we don't know these folks, we don't know these people, but they built this temple. Many of them built this temple. Maybe not all of them, but many of them did. And many of them worked to support this temple. Someone recently asked me, I did a funeral for a family, and they had a granddaughter who was 10 years old, and the grandmother, it was the grandfather that had passed away, the grandmother asked me, do you think it's okay? Do you think it's okay for my granddaughter to view her grandfather, her deceased grandfather, and then come to the funeral service? It was just a small family affair. My response to her was, she and the child's parents were the best to answer the question, because I did not know the child. I met her for the first time at her grandfather's service. And so that they should use their wisdom to make that decision as to whether to bring the child to the viewing and then bring the child to the funeral afterwards. And Mom and Dad did invite their daughter. They asked her if she wanted to come. She did. They asked her if, she had any questions or was scared. She didn't have any questions at that time. So she went to the viewing, and then she came to the service afterwards. This was a 10-year-old who, like a lot of our 10-year-olds in our Sangha, I can think of a couple, and who are quite precocious. They are very wise beyond their years. And this young woman, this young girl, age 10, I asked her how it was, and she said, I'm glad I went to say goodbye to my grandpa. I'm glad that I got to come to the funeral service, because it was a form of her saying goodbye. It was, I don't want to use the word closure, but it was a way for her to say goodbye and to hold memories of her grandpa close to heart. Has anybody seen the movie? I just watched it last night, Inside Out. Anybody seen that movie? It's a Pixar movie. Yeah, I see Yamamoto Sasaki's raising their hands. If you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend it. It reminded me of my Dharma talk today, because in this story, this is a story about a little girl named Riley. And within Riley has all these emotions, right? Joy. And joy wants her to be happy all the time. There's this anger guy. He's red and he just short-tempered. Let's see, there is, there's a gal who's she's sassy. She's sassy, she's a little uppity. I don't know what the right word is, but she stands up for Riley. And then there's fear. There's this character that's fear. And then there's the character sadness, sad. Bottom line, at the very end, although Joy tries to protect Riley from any kind of sadness, any kind of bad news, any kind of fear, what they all learn, I think, in the end, is that there is a place for sadness. And I think that for us, our funerals, maybe that's a time for us to grieve, but it's also a time for us the importance for us as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, the importance of funerals and memorials. Yes, it is a time to grieve, but it's a time to remember, maybe sometimes with a little sadness. But that sadness, when I get sad sometimes, I think about the joyful times that I had, and I'm sad because I miss those times. I miss those times. So that was kind of a digression, but I just would recommend those of you parents, maybe you watch that movie. I think it's also, there's messages in there for us also. We don't have to be happy all the time, right? That's all part of who we are. So going back to the message, sharing that message with children. Part of listening to the Dharma is two important things that we teach. We teach to our kids in Dharma school, right? Interdependence and impermanence. Those were topics this year in Dharma school. Impermanence means that things are changing. Impermanence means that just like the flowers that bloom year to year, they grow and then they die. We too, human beings, we don't live eternally. Our lives will end. Stark message, but nevertheless, that is the wisdom that Shakyamuni Buddha shared with us. If we awaken, if we hear the Dharma, if we come to memorial services, hear the Dharma, perhaps one day we'll awaken, truly, truly awaken, because I don't know that I'm there. You know, have I really accepted that my life will end? You know, and I'm in the fall, getting close to winter of my life. Do I think about it? Well, I do more now, but I think the message, as stark as it is, the other side of that message is, because there is an end, let's really be grateful for the lives that we have and make the most of our lives. Make the most of our lives. It's tough, and I'm not so sure it is that we're capable of comprehending that, right? We don't want to think about the end. We don't want to think about the end. But I think that if we can grasp that truth, if we can grasp that truth, then we can truly be grateful for the life we have today. And Namo Amida Butsu, that spontaneous Namo Amida Butsu arises within us. That gratitude arises within us. So with that, I hope that those of you that have loved ones that have passed away, my mother's 1 year is coming up next month. And I don't come from a Jodo Shinshu tradition where we did memorial services. I have family members that are Buddhist, and so some of them have invited the priest to the home to do a service. To be honest with you, I hadn't really thought about it until recently. One of the benefits, sorry Luann, but one of the benefits for me personally that we've had to fill in because we don't have a resident minister is I have the privilege and honor of conducting, I've had the privilege and honor of conducting more memorial services and some funeral services these past few months. And to be honest, those are some of the most memorable times for me. Our chaplain, Noriko Kawai, you know, she's a hospice chaplain. So Noriko knows what I'm talking about. She deals with this all the time. We get to do makuragyo. We get to do funeral services, and then we get to do memorial services. We get to remember these people in a very, very meaningful and special way. I have learned more about some of our past members recently and the contributions that they've made to this temple. And it really intensifies my gratitude towards them for all that they have done for this temple. So with that, I don't mean to be, leaving you with a downer message. My message is grasp this life, hang on to it, make the most of it, make the most of your day, embrace your children, embrace each other. The heck with COVID. I mean, be careful, don't just throw caution to the wind, but really embrace the day, be happy as you can be. And thank you very much for coming today. It really gives me great pleasure and gratitude to see you here. So please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.
Thank you, Reverend Laverne, for your very meaningful and heartwarming message on our memorials and the gratitude that we have toward all those who have passed on before us, and for living our lives with gratitude each day. Will everyone please rise for the singing of the Gotha Ondoksan, which is written by Shinran Shonin, our founder of our Jodo Shinshu tradition, and is about gratitude. Ondoksan is on page 126 of the service book, and yes, and Reverend Noriko has recording to play the music. Thank you.
Not that I sang it or anything.
Thank you, Reverend Noriko, and thank you for everybody for the singing of the Ondoksan. And now Reverend Laverne will lead us with a closing meditation.
Please put your hands together as I read a poem that was written by a former bishop of the BCA. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding it here. Here we go. I'm going to sound the bell, and please sit in silence, and then I will read Reverend Tsuji's poem, and then we will close with Nembutsu Gassho. Eternal now. In the beginningless, endless flow of time, each life is a mere ripple, existing only for an instantaneous moment and disappearing forever. But each life is a unique experience with beauty and truth all of its own, with no identical counterpart in history and none absolutely the same in the future. Your life, my life, is attuned to the rhythm of the cosmos and to the heartbeat of reality. Each life exists in the eternal now. Each idea that is thought, each word that is spoken, each action that is taken, changes the whole pattern of the universe, for the universe is interdependent. Think, speak, and act then, always in the eternal now, with compassion and understanding for your own enlightenment and for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida.
Namo Amida
Namo
Butsu.
Amida.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida.
Thank you very much, Reverend Laverne, for reading the passage from Reverend Tsuji. This concludes this morning's service for June. And for those of you who would like to stay to listen to Reverend Noriko's Japanese message, you're welcome to do so. For all others, you're welcome to come up for a Gassho offering. And if you would like to join us for hospitality downstairs, you're welcome to do so. Thank you very much for attending today, and enjoy your Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph, for stepping in last minute.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Shall I just start? じゃあ日本語のお話を始めます。合唱をお願いいたします。和言愛語にして、心を線にして、先にして、縄文数。ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏。おはようございます。またお久しぶりに皆さんとお会いすることができて大変嬉しく思います。本日はだいぶ前にもお話ししたことがある和言愛語という言葉についてお話ししたいと思います。和言愛語ですね。これは先ほど Our Pledge というのを皆さんで読みましたけれども、一番初めの部分 Breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words。 これ和言愛語のことですね。皆さんこの和言愛語という言葉をご存知でしょうか。もし仏教にお詳しくなくてもご存知の方はいらっしゃるのではないかと思います。和やかな顔と優しく愛のある言葉で相手に接するという意味だそうです。この言葉は仏説無量寿経というお経の中に出てくるのですが、和言愛語戦意縄文、はじめに読んだ和言愛語にして意を線にして先にしてですかね、縄文数という言葉で、現代語にすると和言愛語にして、相手の身になって和やかで穏やかな笑顔と、慈愛に満ちた温かい言葉を発し、相手の気持ちをおもんばかって煎じて動くことという意味だそうです。これは阿弥陀様がまだ法蔵菩薩という菩薩さんでいらっしゃった頃にされた修行の一つであるということです。阿弥陀さんでさえそういう修行をされたと思うと、びっくりしました私は。ちょっと話は変わりますが、私は今このお寺でミニスターズアシスタントというお手伝いをさせていただいており、職業としてはホスピスと病院でチャプレンとして働いていますが、2013年まではサンディエゴにある日系の企業で17年間営業の仕事をしておりました。テレビや冷蔵庫といった家電の部品や材料を世界中のいろんな国から買ってきて、アメリカやメキシコ、 中南米にある会社に売るという仕事をしていました。海外出張も多く、すごくやりがいのある仕事でしたし、多分自分にも向いていたと思います。営業というのは1日24時間、週末もないような仕事で、かなりストレスはありましたが、楽しく仕事していました。でも以前から何かの役に立ちたい、誰かのためになりたいという気持ちがあって、どうしたものかと思っていました。最初のうちはテレビの部品や材料を供給することによって世の中の人がテレビを見ることができ、世界のことを知ったり知識を得ることができるんだ。そのお手伝いをしてるんだから、私は人のためになることをそういう仕事をしてるんだと思うようにしていたんですけれども、やっぱりそれでは物足りませんでした。皆さんはそんなふうに思われたことはないでしょうか。例えばマザー・テレサとか、マーティン・ルーサー・キング・ジュニアのような人のために一生をかけたり、孤児院を建てたり、孤児を何人も引き取ったりするようなことができる人が羨ましいと思いました。でもそんな得もないし、お金もない、誰かのためになりたい、何かの役に立ちたいという思いはあっても、自分なんかそんな才能もないし、大金持ちでもないから何の役にも立たないと思いました。人のためになれないなら、私の人生の意味って何だろう。私の人生には意味なんてない、生きてる意味もないのではと絶望的に感じました。でも仏教をお勉強していくうちに、私でもできることがあるのではと思うことができました。仏教には無罪の七世という言葉があります。無罪の七世と、こういう字です。皆さんはお布施という言葉をご存知でしょうか。お坊さんに渡すお礼のお金と思っていないでしょうか。私はずっとその意味しか知りませんでした。でも実は本来はそれだけを示す言葉ではないのだそうです。布施という言葉は、このように書きますが、布は布という字ですけれども、これは分け隔てなくという意味、そして施は字の通り施すという意味です。ですので、見返りを期待せず、損得感情なく、分け隔てなく施す行いのことだそうです。無罪の七世とは、地位や財産がなくても、心がけ一つで誰もが簡単に周囲の人に幸せを与えることができる行いのことなのです。無罪の七世の7つは次の7つのお布施です。ちょっと小さいので見にくいですけれども、1番が、1つ目、願世。常に温かく優しい眼差しを施すこと。2番目は願世。いつもニコニコ笑顔で接すること。言辞世。優しく愛情のこもった言葉。時には厳しく叱ること。信世。自分の体を使い奉仕すること。信世。これまた同じ、読みですけれども字が違いまして、心配り、気配り、思いやりの心を持ち、相手の立場になってみること。小座世、座席や場所、地位を譲ること。傍舎世、家や部屋を提供すること。この以上の7つが、無罪の七世です。お金も力もないから人の役に立てないと私のように思っている人でも、周りの人に幸せを届けることはできますよと、お釈迦様が教えられたのがこの無罪の七世です。すでにこれらのことをしてらっしゃる方は多いのではないでしょうか。小座世は座席や場所を譲ること。これは 私たちは電車乗らないですけれども、電車に乗った時やバスに乗った時、または病院の受付なんかで、人に席を譲ったりすることでできます。傍射世、家や、部屋を提供することは、例えば日本や他の場所から家族や友達が来た時に自分の家に泊まってもらったり、パーティーをしたり集まってご飯を食べたりする時に自分の家を提供するというようなこともできるかと思います。この無罪の七世のうちの2つが和言愛語です。和言愛語とは、和やかな笑顔と優しい言葉で相手に接することです。お釈迦様は、笑顔で人と接しなさい。あなたは周りの人を和やかな気持ちにさせることができますよ。優しい言葉を人にかけなさい。あなたと接する人を温かい気持ちにすることができますよ、とおっしゃいました。仕事をしていたり、子育てをしていたり、必要としてくれる人が目に見えて存在する間は誰かの役に立てていると思えるかもしれません。でも何かが起きて、例えば怪我や病気をして入院してしまって、自分はもう何の役にも立てないと思うかもしれません。ひょっとしたら今がそういう時だと思っていらっしゃる方もいらっしゃるかもしれません。仕事がない、収入がない、人の役に立つどころか、かえって人に迷惑をかけていると思う時もあるかもしれません。私はホスピスと病院で働いて、よく患者さんからそういうお話をお聞きします。病気になってしまって家族の世話ができない、年を取ってまたは病気のせいで運転ができない、すべて人の世話にならなければいけないのがつらい、多くの患者さんがそうおっしゃいます。つらいですよね。人にしてあげたいと思うのに、逆に人の世話にばっかりなっている。自分ができることは何もない。本当に苦しい思いをされている方が多くいらっしゃいます。そんな時に無罪の七世という教えが役に立つかもしれません。何もないと思っていても、実は人の役に立つような行いができるという教えだからです。入院はしていても、仕事する体力はなくても、和やかな笑顔と優しい言葉で相手に接する和言愛語はできます。何の役にも立たないからといって仏頂面になっていたら、周りに壁を作って一人ぼっちになってしまうかもしれません。でも和言愛語を心がけて周りに幸せを届ける存在になることもできます。私はホスピスのチャプレンとして患者さんのお宅に伺ったり、住んでいらっしゃる施設に伺ったりします。やはりご年配の患者さんが多いのですが、穏やかで優しく知恵のある言葉をいただいて、すごく励ましていただくことが多くあります。こちらがお慰めする立場というと少しおこがましいですが、そういう役目のはずなのに、逆に励ましをいただくことの方がずっと多いように思います。そんなふうに和言愛語を実践していらっしゃる方は、どんな時でも自分の心次第で状況を変えられるのかもしれません。そして相手の気持ちさえも変えることができます。でも辛いことがあって笑顔になれない時もあります。心が表情に現れる時もありますが、逆に表情から心を作ることもできるそうです。顔だけでも笑うと気持ちまで明るくなる現象を医学ではバイオフィードバックと呼ぶそうです。心の底から笑えないとしても、形だけでも口角だけでも上げてみて、笑ったような表情を作ると脳が影響を受けて考え方がポジティブになるそうです。人間の脳ってすごいですよね。もう無理やり笑い顔を作ることによって脳が笑ってるんだっていうふうに考えるわけですね。ポジティブになることで脳が働き、やるべきことに集中できるそうです。 和言愛語は周囲を和ませ、穏やかな空気を生み、人を励ます力もありますが、笑顔で人に接しようと努めている自分自身こそが大きな幸せをつかむことができるわけです。自利他利、自分を幸せにし、人を幸せにするというこのお布施が和言愛語であるということです。自分が辛いときは笑顔や優しい言葉を人に向けられない。でもどんな辛い状況でも周囲への思いやりを忘れず、笑顔や優しい言葉を心がけると、それによって自分も幸せな気持ちになれるのかもしれません。でも本当にすごく辛くて、口角を少し上げることもできないと思う時もあります。そんな時は阿弥陀様のことを思い出してください。阿弥陀様のお像はいつも前に傾いていらっしゃって、いつでも私たちのところにいらしてくださろうとしています。阿弥陀様はいつも思いやりの心で私たちを見守ってくださっているのではないでしょうか。では合唱してお話を終わりとさせていただきます。合唱。和言愛語にして心を先にして縄文す。ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏。ありがとうございました。